So, morning everybody. Thanks so much for joining. My name's Stephen Arbuthnot. I think most of you know me already. It's my absolute privilege to be head of sixth form at Culford. And as I said to the people who joined early, thanks so much for joining. I've got a lovely view of Culford Park out there, but it's pouring with rain. And your children are walking around downstairs, visiting various A-level stands. What I want to do is to give you a sort of a flavour of the sixth form experience at Culford. And please do type questions. I'll probably talk for a little bit, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I think there's a button at the top where you can sort of text questions. I don't know if I have to legally say your standard network rate applies. I'm sure it's free, but do please text any questions. And as I say, I'll do my best to answer them. So I guess overall, as head of sixth form, my aim is that there is no better sixth form experience anywhere. So that's my aim. Obviously, we were really pleased with the recent ISI inspection. They came round a few months ago and they graded us as excellent, which is their highest ranking across all things, so academic and the pastoral, which is a fantastic endorsement of what we do. But I guess in my mind, I have a sort of a vision of the sixth form experience I want to create, whereby it's only 2 years, it's less than 2 years actually, but that pupils leave at the end of 2 years, leave our beautiful park in between the pine trees of that long, lovely path, and they look back and they think, do you know what, I've had 2 absolutely fantastic years here, loads of friends, I've had lots of fun. I'm super pleased with my A-level results and I've really done better than I thought I ever would. But I also want them to be thinking, do you know what, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to leave now. I've got the skills, I've got the wherewithal that I'm now ready for the big wide world. And that's what we try and achieve. And they're the sorts of discussions that I have with pupils at the Leavers Ball right at the end, where you know, they are ready to leave, and that's for us, that's mission accomplished. And then being equipped with the skills is super important, because we live in a world, if any of you are my sort of age with children kind of 15, 16, you know, the world is changing so fast, much faster than it ever changed when we were that age. If you think 10, maybe 15 years ago, if your child said, you know, mummy, when I grow up, I want to be an app developer or a cloud computing specialist or a driverless car engineer, you know, you would have said, Johnny, what are you talking about? None of those jobs exist yet. I don't know what you're talking about. And most, or you know, at least some of our children will end up working at what we call gazelle companies, so very small, fast-growing companies that don't exist yet. You know, doing things that don't exist yet. So it's very difficult to give them the exact skills for the job. We need to make sure that our pupils, when they leave, your children are innovative and dynamic. They're the sorts of people who can make change happen. They can drive change. And we need to make sure that they're also flexible and resilient, so they can adapt to that change and cope with that change and bounce back when they will get the inevitable knockbacks. So if I start talking through the sort of the academic side of sixth form, but I do think that grades are actually only a small part of it. They are a very important part, you know, the keys to the next stage in the journey, be that university or whatever, but they are actually only a small part. And I'll also touch on things like university careers, personal skills, development and social. So if I start with the academic, I'll have a little sip of water. Your child will be able to choose from 24 subjects. So we have a huge range of subjects. Most of those are A-levels, which a lot of us are familiar with, but we are launching and have launched in the last couple of years A-level equivalent subjects in various courses like digital media, business technology, acting, applied science, dance. And these are really quite exciting courses to look at, because lots of us aren't very familiar with them as parents maybe, but they are courses, I think, a bit more like real life, certainly a bit more like university assessment, in that they are modular. exams are taken throughout the 2 years. There's elements of coursework. And the important thing is they carry as a level 3 qualification, like an A-level, exactly the same UCAS points to get into university, exactly the same UCAS points. Admittedly, if you were looking to apply to somewhere like Cambridge or Imperial to do computer science or maths, they would want you to take A-levels. But for 95+% of universities, A-levels or A-level equivalent. So I do suggest you look at those courses, and they suit some people who don't want 2 years of learning this 2-inch thick textbook and then sitting in Centenary Hall at 2 years hoping they're feeling good and doing that exam right at the end. So do consider those as well. Other sort of questions I get asked, generally choose 3 subjects. Some parents think, well, should do 4, that will look better for universities. Very, very few people should do 4. Either the most very able, often maybe people doing further maths who are going to go somewhere like Cambridge to study computer science. But even Oxford and Cambridge, for most of their courses, want 3 A-level grades and the best grades that you can get in those 3. So if you think about the sort of the maths of it, if you choose 4 subjects, you've got 33% more work to do than everybody else. And actually, you've got only half the number of private studies to do that work in, because you're going to your 4th A-level for half of your private studies. So really, for most of us, 3 A-levels. Classes are super small. I think they average 10 pupils across the 6th form. I teach 2 A-levels, business and economics. My upper 6th economics class is 7, my business class is 11. So I've got an average of 9. So I call them classes. They are, they're more like tutorials. They're more like university tutorials, very, very individualized. So I can have in my economics class, someone doing quite simplistic supply and demand at one side of the class, and someone else analyzing an article from The Economist on game theory. And they can both be progressing at the rate that's right for them. So average of about 10 in the class. And of course, the feel in the class is very different, because not only is it smaller, but everybody's chosen the subjects that they want to do. So I dragged myself through GCSE physics and chemistry, thinking I cannot wait for the day that I can drop these. I don't want to know how to wire a plug. I'm happy to pay someone for the rest of my life to wire a plug. Get me out of here, give me English literature and maths and the stuff that I loved. I have been electrocuted a couple of times, so I probably should have listened in physics, but that's an aside. So the small number of pupils with motivation because it's the subject that they love. We start the lower 6th, the whole of the year group will do a learning skills conference. So first sort of proper day of school after Freshers Week, which I'll talk about in a minute, there's a learning skills conference, and we bring in external consultants that teach the pupils how to speed read, how to note take, and revision skills. And by the end of that conference, the average reading speed has doubled while maintaining at least the same level of comprehension. So suddenly that 2-inch A-level textbook has shrunk in half. So those sort of learning skills, super important that we hit on day 1. In the academic subjects as well, there will be subject societies. They are often led by the pupils. So the pupils can further enrich themselves in the subjects that they're doing, and also gain, leadership skills, which are super important. I mentioned private studies. When you move up from GCSE to A-level, guided independent learning is really important. When I was at uni, I had lectures on a Monday and a Tuesday morning, and that was it. The rest of it was in the library. So universities want pupils to be able to learn independently. So they have, if you add up all of the private studies and assume sort of 2 hours of prep for A-levels Monday to Friday, that's about 21 hours. So about 7 hours a subject. But we don't leave pupils stranded with just go and get on with some work. Heads of department put together some guided learning, which might be, reading articles, might be preparing a presentation, might be watching a video on YouTube. And the 6th form have their dedicated space on the mezzanine just for them. They have a dedicated space in Paddy and Scott's where they can go and they can work and get on with this guided independent learning. They can, sit in Paddy and Scott's on the sofas with laptops open and collaborate on a project presentation or something like that. So it's very different to GCSEs. Sticking with the academic as well at A-level, we also focus a lot on what we call the super curricular. So you've heard a lot probably about extracurricular. So I do my subjects, and I'm also in the rugby team, and I do CCF and scuba diving and what have you. But super curricular is really important for university application. So that's sort of taking your A-levels and going a little bit beyond. And again, that's tailored to each pupil. So some will go a little bit beyond, some will go way beyond. But all of our sixth form, we've got this software that gives them access to every MOOC. If you've heard of a MOOC, a massive open online course, they have access to every MOOC in the world, and they will all do at least one. And this is a free course from internationally renowned universities. They're often sort of 6 or 8 weeks long, maybe 3 or 4 hours on a Sunday or something like that. And what it means is, while someone else might have done physics at A-level, if you go to Culford, you've done physics at A-level, and you can also say, I've also done a 6-week MOOC from Stanford University on astrophysics and antimatter, or if that's physics. As I say, I gave up after GCSEs. So each of them will work hard also on supercurricular. They will all do an independent research project, which is over half a term in their private studies and preps. And again, it's sort of delving deeper into a part of their A-level, so it helps with their A-level, or maybe looking up to what they will be doing at a first year university course. They research a question in great detail, and then they will present it for 15 minutes to a room full of people. And while that might sound daunting to many of us, by the time we've got our sixth form to that stage, a 15-minute presentation isn't a daunting prospect because of all the interventions that we've done along the way that I'll talk about in a minute. Some, but not all pupils, will also do TED Talks to the younger pupils in the school. So these are like mini 5-minute presentations on an area of their A-level. Lots of sound, music, lights, if you've seen TED Talks, which encourages all of our sixth form to delve deeper into their subjects. And again, gives them a chance to work on their presentation skills. So I guess as an example, a case study, if I take one girl, I won't name her, I'll call her A, because that's what her name begins with. But she joined us a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago. She did maths and physics and thought, okay, I want to be an engineer. So she's doing her maths and physics A-level. But she attends all of our sixth form careers lunches, and she goes to the architecture careers lunch and is inspired by architecture. And so we put her in touch with the architect, who puts her in touch and networks with people within her firm. And this girl is now inspired to do architecture. So she does her independent research project, which I sat in and assessed last week, on architecture stimulating the senses, which was outstanding. She's done a MOOC from the University of Harvard on the architectural imagination, I think it was called. And she's done a Culford TED Talk on is maths an art or a science? And she also leads the Academic Society. So this girl is now applying to be an architect, but has a lot more than just these are my A-levels that I did at school and I was in the hockey team. She's done all of this extra stuff, which makes her application look amazing. But all of the skills that she's learned doing those things in terms of communication skills and leadership and, networking and independent research makes her, a super rounded person. And we will make sure each pupil does the right amount of super curricular work for them. So just finishing off on the academic, in terms of A-level results, they're excellent. I'm sure you've seen them on the website or whatever, but very broadly, we're talking about a third of pupils will get A's and A stars. About 2/3 of people will get A stars to B's. Several very bright pupils will get suites of A stars, 3 A stars, 4 A stars. But we are a broad church at Culford. And as I say, I will have someone on either side of my economics class doing quite different work. So everybody will leave walking down the park at the end of their 2 years thinking, I've got a super set of A-level results for me. And that's what's really important. So that's a little bit about the academic. University, next stage. Most of our pupils go to university. A big chunk of my time is helping prepare them. Each pupil has a specialist sixth form tutor, who helps prepare them. who will have weekly tutorials with them. We buy in this fantastic software called Unifrog, which helps match pupils to suitable courses. We take our pupils to the National UCAS convention, so all our sixth formers will go to that, where every single university will present. They'll all have a stand so they can engage, as well as, you know, they can go off on their own to do university visits. And we also bring the universities to us. We have our Life After Culford conference for our lower sixth. And this is where we bring in admissions tutors, the people who will be ultimately looking at those applications, to coach our Culford sixth formers on, you know, how to write a personal statement, interview skills, practice interviews, how to approach admissions tests if there's particular admissions tests. We'll bring in our old Culfordians who are graduates or undergraduates to give our sixth formers, you know, recent experience. So that's a sort of a fantastic thing that we do. And as a result, I think it's something like 75% of our pupils will go to their first choice university. So pupils choose, well, they apply to 5 and then they have to choose 2, a first and a second. 75% will go to their first choice. And we encourage our pupils to be ambitious, to punch high. So these first choices are ambitious choices. And the remaining 25% will either go to their second choice university, or some of them opt actually to go into clearing on results day to get an even better place. So the clearing just gone, we had pupils go into clearing and get places at Russell Group universities like Cardiff, Exeter, York. So the university placements are sort of kind of testament to the work I think that we put in preparing our sixth form for the next stage. Some choose to go overseas. So we have many pupils each year who go off to places like Europe and the US. US is really popular, particularly with our sports scholars. I think we had 3 last year who went on tennis and golf scholarships to Missouri and Lincoln and Santa Barbara. So that is a very popular route. And increasingly popular in the last 2 or 3 years are what we call degree level apprenticeships, which is definitely something to talk to your children about. So you can go to university, which most people do, 3 years full time, and you'll leave possibly, you know, with a degree. You will leave with a degree, hopefully, but maybe with 30 or 40,000 pounds of student debt. But increasingly, firms are trying to get good pupils at 18 and get them onto their degree apprenticeship programs. So we had pupils last year who went to Arkiva, a communications apprenticeship, and also, where was the other one? BAE Systems for an engineering apprenticeship. So you go straight into the company, you are paid a pretty good salary, and you're given a day or 2 off a week where you can go to the local university and you get yourself a degree that your employer pays for. They are quite competitive. They are relatively new, and I think the most sort of sophisticated sectors are around engineering and finance, but it is an alternative to university which we support our pupils through, and it's definitely something worth looking at. Right, one more sip of water. For those of you who are interested in Oxbridge or maybe medicine, dentistry, vet, probably better to go through it in detail at another time, but there is a huge program for those pupils which we intertwine with our scholars program. I think the highlight of which is our own Culford Oxbridge conference, where we also host bright pupils from state schools all around East Anglia, where we bring Oxford and Cambridge tutors to us, who again will coach our pupils through how to put together a really strong Oxbridge application. They will do Oxbridge style supervisions, which is the sort of the posh Oxbridge way of saying tutorials, with our pupils. Those pupils will also get a dedicated Oxbridge tutor, and they will have specific interventions based on what they're applying for. So the medics, for example, if you want to go to medical school now, rather than doing normal interviews, medical schools do what they call MMIs, mini medical interviews, which are basically role plays, which they think are the best way to kind of sort through who's going to be a great doctor. So we bring in our sixth form drama students who role play. And I think the funniest one I saw was a sixth form drama student acting out being a patient who had just had hip replacement, which had gone wrong. And then our aspirant medic turns up and has to have the first post-operative consultation with this patient who limps in, who's not very happy. But obviously, you know, we create these scenarios based on what they're going to face when they go to their university interviews. So that's a little bit about academic and about university. If I talk about leadership and life skills, these are at least as important as A-level grades to me. If Dr. Guntrip isn't listening, I would say probably more important. My background isn't teaching. I came to Culford about 13 years ago, but the first half of my career, I was a marketing director in London for a couple of large pharmaceutical companies, GlaxoSmithKline, Bristol Myers Squibb. And I saw there, success is definitely so much more than grades. I didn't know what anybody in my team had got in their A-level results. I didn't even know what they got in their degrees. But it's the personal skills and qualities that you take into work which are so important. And that's why we start, even before sixth form begins, when we all go away on Freshers Week. So all of the lower sixth, we get our warm gear on and we go off to the Peak District and we hire Luce Hill Hall, which is this sort of massive Victorian Gothic mansion. We bring in leadership consultants, outward bound consultants, and we spend the week working on leadership, teamwork, communication skills. All of those are great, but it's also a great week for bonding, because if you think we've got, say, you know, on average about 60 pupils coming up from our fifth form into sixth form and 30 pupils coming in from outside who are probably a little bit nervous and don't know anyone. By the end of that first week, everybody will know everyone, and they will just be a big group of, you know, not little cliques, but a big group of sixth form, and they will carry that friendship through for 2 years and probably for the rest of their lives. In terms of skills as well, all sixth form are expected to lead an activity. So they lead, you know, French clubs, dance clubs, politics societies, whatever it is. Some are ready to lead a club quite early. Some need a bit more support. But our expectation is all sixth form, as role models in the school, will lead an activity and staff will help support them through that. So they can build the sort of the skills which are encompassed in running clubs and societies. And they're also the sort of the classic leadership roles that every school has, like, you know, school prefects, house prefects, NCOs in the CCF and what have you. We also put our sixth form through peer counselling training, which I think is a really lovely thing, because it gets them to step up a little bit and be mentors to younger pupils, maybe younger pupils who are going through a difficult time in their life. And sometimes our school counsellor or the tutor or the medical department might be the best person to talk to that younger pupil. But sometimes having a sixth former who has been trained is the best person, at least in the first instance. Another thing we do, I see all of the sixth form in small tutorial sets every single week for a life skills tutorial, which is probably my favourite part of the week, where we look at stuff like growth mindsets, confidence, assertiveness, communication skills. This week we were looking at mindfulness. Public speaking we were doing last week, I think is really, really important. I admit to the sixth form that when I was their age, I couldn't stand up in public. I physically couldn't do it. I'd run a mile. I'd throw a sickie. And I'm determined that all of our sixth form leave having the, you know, innate confidence to be able to stand up and talk. And we do this. It's really difficult unless you're there, but I create this environment where it's our little enclave. It's a little sort of sanctuary where we say, right, let's just be really open and honest with each other here. We're not judging each other. And, you know, who's anxious? And we get to the stage where everybody, even that 6'3", you know, tough rugby player, puts his hand up and says, sir, you're about to ask me to stand up and talk in public. I'm absolutely, well, I won't say what they say, but, you know, I'm absolutely nervous. And once you've got the environment where they know they can trust each other, they know they're not judging each other, then we get them in, you know, 15 seconds, introduce the person next to you. And then we, you know, next week it might be 30 seconds. And then it's a 5-minute interview to parents. And then about a year later, it's their 15-minute research project. 2 weeks ago, a parent came up to me and thanked me because her son left Culford 2 years ago. He's just been through the final assessment centre for a job in London where they were asked to present for 5 minutes. He put his hand up to present first because he knew that he'd nail it. He nailed it. He got the job. And I'm able to tell 2 weeks ago, my new lower sixth, who are all anxious, saying, you know, this boy was in your seat 2 years ago and he was first with his hand up, saying how anxious he was. And look what he's doing now. So it's that sort of growth mindset that we work on really hard. Skills as well, I won't go into it in great detail, but obviously we have our Malawi trip, which is open to all of the lower sixth in the summer holidays. It is life-changing. Talk to Mr. Dean about it. Well worth looking at. Right, a couple more things, and then I'll open to questions. Careers. Careers, very important. Many don't have a clue when they join sixth form, which is absolutely fine. I talked about that girl earlier who thought she was going to be an engineer, and how, you know, her journey's taken her to architecture. We invest in a lot of online careers software that looks at personality testing, things like Myers-Briggs, if you're familiar with it from your places of work. We have a full online careers library that matches pupils to potential jobs based on the subjects they're doing, what their interests are, what their personality is, what their skills are. And next door to my office, behind me, is the foundation office, where we have all the database of old Culfordian alumni, where we can link, and we have thousands of them who all want to help, where we can link OC alumni with our sixth form pupils to mentor them, to offer work experience, etc. And I think I've spoken briefly about the sixth form careers lunches. So on the mezzanine, very informal, very grown-up feeling, sandwiches on the sofas, and we have 1 or 2 a week where professionals come in from accountants to internet startups to interior design to physiotherapy, all the professions under the sun, and they will talk to an interested group of sixth formers who then get to ask questions, who get to network. And those networks have already created lots of work experience, job shadowing, and actually full-time jobs from our sixth form. We have, I will mention his name because he's left, Raoul, who was here a couple of years ago. He went to the Architects Careers Lunch. There's now a lovely photo of him on the front of Infinity Architects. He's now working for them full-time. We had, who else was there? Jess went to the accountancy one from Grant Thornton, is now working for Grant Thornton on their degree apprenticeship. So those careers lunches are a super addition to our sixth form programme. Social, I'm sure your children probably tell you all about the social life in the sixth form, but fun is a big part of it. And I think if they're not leaving saying I've had a load of fun, then I've done something wrong and they've done something wrong. You know, they are 16, 17, they should be having bags of fun. We tend to mix lower sixth and upper sixth together as one big unit. They have termly sixth form parties, which are put on by the sixth form committee. For some strange reason, they're all crazy on fancy dress, which, you know, if I get invited to a fancy dress party, I always get a sniffle, can't quite make it, but they go to town. They are amazing. You know, Hawaiian, gangster, all these things. Actually, the only thing they get wrong, the sixth form committee, is they send me all the links on Amazon to order all the various accoutrements for the sixth form parties. So the one thing they get wrong is they never seem to look at the delivered by date, because about a month after the Hawaiian party, I'm still getting inflatable flamingos and palm trees arriving in my pigeonhole. So that is some learning that I think I need to feed back. We have sixth form formal dinners. They have sixth form Christmas balls, summer balls. They've obviously got their dedicated space. They all go to Paddy and Scott's at lunchtime. Friday night, we open it up and they're allowed a beer with parents' permission and a pizza. They've got their sixth form lounge with sofas and flat screen tellies, and obviously the mezzanine level as well. So I think I've sort of talked through academic. I've sort of touched on universities and Oxbridge. I've touched on degree apprenticeships, careers, a little bit about social, a little bit about life skills. So I guess in kind of summary, what do I think? I think we have a very happy, dynamic and engaging sixth form with a real buzz about it. And I think they leave us as very confident and happy young adults who have excellent communication skills, excellent personal skills. And so when they walk down the park and they look back, they're not just saying, yes, I had great fun, and yes, I've got a great set of grades, but they're saying, you know, I'm ready to go now, sir, thanks a lot. So I know you probably had a load of stuff that you could be doing on a Saturday morning rather than listen to me drool on. Has anybody got any questions? And I've never done this before, so I'm going to click on it and I should see some questions. What's the best way to access subject teachers to get their views on the suitability of a subject choice for our daughter? One thing I love about Culford is the accessibility of the subject teachers. So I tell my sixth formers off every week. If they find anything difficult in class, I will say to them, I haven't seen you in activities all week. You know, why haven't you come and seen me? Come and see me, saying, you know, before you attempt your prep, saying, I don't get this question. I'd much rather I could give you a steer rather than you attempt something that you don't quite understand. And throughout all of the classroom blocks, teachers are running clinics. It's exactly the same now. The pupils are downstairs as I speak, talking to subject teachers. But I've told them, if, you know, we've given you the option to see 5 subject teachers. If you want to see 10, that's absolutely great. Just let me know. And subject teachers are very, very giving with their time. You know, I have pupils coming into my office and I'll get out the economics textbook and the business textbook and we'll look at both and help them understand what the difference is. So yeah, heads of department, class teachers, super experienced in that and super willing to give their time. How does the 4th A-level option work these days now that A-levels are no longer? Yeah, the jury's split on Michael Gove getting rid of AS levels. Some people love him for it, some people hate him for it. Pupils used to do 4 AS levels in the first year, which got them each 50% of an A level, and then they'd drop a subject, and then their 3 best ones they take on and get the other 50% of the A level in their upper 6th. In some ways that was really good because you had a whole year of doing 4 subjects before deciding which one to drop. I didn't like it because pupils had exams at the end of the lower 6th. So you're spending a lot of time as teachers teaching them how to nail an exam rather than having the time to, you know, go into your subject in loads more detail. The not having that 4th subject means you have to choose your 3 subjects wisely, because there are some subjects, I think, particularly subjects like maths, physics, biology, that do step up. I mean, all of them step up a gear in the 2nd year, but some of them, you know, really do step up. And now we choose 3 A levels. You know, say you've chosen maths, but you're not really quite sure about maths. It might be the case that after a year, you're thinking, wow, I've sort of hit my ceiling in maths now, and I've got another year and I'm going to really struggle. We cope with that by saying for certain subjects, for most subjects, you know, you might need a 6 in GCSE in the subject that you're doing. For subjects like physics or maths, it's really more like an 8 because you really need to get it. So you sort of don't hit a glass ceiling at the end of the 1st year. We do say pupils can start with 4 and maybe after a couple of weeks, you know, decide, you know, oh, that's my least favorite. So that is always an option. And of course, anyone who does business and economics and drops it after 2 weeks, I don't let them forget it right until the leavers ball. And I tease them saying, thanks a lot, doing my subject for 2 weeks and then leaving. What did I do wrong? But we do encourage that. And that's something to think about. And subject teachers, you know, will help pupils make that decision. Will this meeting be recorded so we can listen to it later? I was instructed to record it, so it does say it's recording. So yes is the answer to that. I feel like a radio DJ. This is so exciting. My 4th option question is around, do they all have to start with 4 like in the old days? No, they don't all have to start with 4. And I would encourage pupils, if you know which 3 that you're going to do your 3. Actually, if everybody chose 4, it actually makes it more complicated as a school with timetabling, just from a logistical point of view. Timetables are a nightmare. If any of you ever become a teacher in a 2nd career, don't do timetabling. It's like it's the thing to avoid. Only choose 4 if you really don't know. But, you know, pupils, and we're flexible with choices really right up until Freshers Week. In fact, before we go on Freshers Week, I bring in Dr. Guntritt, who sort of heads up the academic of the school, and we get pupils there who say, do you know what? I hadn't chosen geography. I nailed my geography GCSE. Can I do a swap? And 9 times out of 10, we can, get swaps, the day before we start term. So you don't have to start with 4 if you don't want to. How do you choose a good balance of subjects if you don't know what career you want to do? Talk to me, talk to your subject teachers. It's actually less important than you think, even at the next level, even when you choose degrees. So there's this sort of misunderstanding that people think, I want to get into business, so I should be doing a business degree. And that is absolutely not the case. If you speak to businesses, if you speak to management consultants, they would actually say, we would prefer people not to do a business degree. Go and, if you love history of art, go and do history of art and love history of art and pick up, lots of transferable skills in your history of art degree, and then join us, and maybe we'll put you through an MBA while you're with us. Even law, the majority of people now who go and do their articles or go to the bar don't do a law degree. They will start with another degree and then do a law conversion course. So sure, if you're going to be a doctor, maths, biology, pretty important. If you're thinking engineering, physics, maths, pretty important. So, ask questions, talk to teachers, come and see me, and we will help as much as we can. How did you, okay, you said 60 students stay on and there were about 30 new students. What proportion are from overseas and what percentage board? I don't know the answer to that. We get, I think our biggest intake in lower sixth is probably, there are rules on how many we can take in terms of percentages, and probably the biggest intake, we're very popular in the German market. So there are often 6 or 7, oops, someone wants to join, let me just admit them. There are often 6 or 7 from Germany who come in, often they're playing tennis as well. Sometimes they join for a year and actually then ring up after a year and say, yeah, Mutti, I want to stay for 2. And then they stay for 2 years and do A-levels with us. In fact, our head of Cornwallis at the moment, Herman, he joined us in lower 5th as a German for 1 year and actually ended up staying for 4 and is now school prefect and head of Cornwallis. In terms of boarding, again, I don't know the exact percentages in sixth form. The percentage of boarding goes up in sixth form because lots of day pupils' parents will say, actually, it's quite good preparation, for university life to have the boarding experience. I was a day boy in my sixth form. I don't think I missed out a lot. I did occasional boarding at school, and we encourage pupils to do occasional boarding. But all of the activities program, all of the extra super curricular stuff that we put on, even the weekend activities for boarders, everything we do is open to day boys and girls as well as boarders. So it's what's right for you and a family. How geared up are the houses for part-time boarding as an option in sixth form? Very geared up, and the only constraint would be availability of rooms. So I think, so if you want that option, I would get in there early, let admissions know that you're interested in part-time boarding. I think there's more pressure. The number of boys is bigger than the number of girls. It's probably 60-40 or something like that. And so, if there is room availability, so get in there early. But I think part-time boarding is a great idea. Flexi boarding is a great idea. For some reason, Friday night is a really popular night for part-time boarding. I wonder why. Anyway, date night for parents. Yay. Oh my God, this is being recorded. I've got to make sure that I don't swear or say anything inappropriate. Hopefully I haven't. I'll have to edit it out. There's no more questions. Can I just say thank you so much for joining? It's really weird for me because I'm sat in my office on my own. I normally see the top of Mr. Reynolds' head, who normally sits at the desk just over there, and I can't see that today because I banned him. And I know it's a Saturday morning. Really appreciate you all joining. If you have any questions at all, or if your son or daughter has any questions, then it's a really important choice. Choosing sixth form is a super important choice. So ask us, talk to us, and we'll help. Great presentation, thank you, Ed. I love you. And Neil said ditto, thank you. Neil, I'm sending out the love to you as well. That's what the kids do. Caroline, thank you. Right, I'm getting soppy now. Thanks very much. I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.